Debate, the honourable member for Battle River Crowfoot.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and let me start by saying that I will be sharing my time with the member from Sarnia-Lambton. And, Madam Speaker, I would just, before I get into the substance of Bill C-50, state unequivocally how important it is to acknowledge the conflict that is taking place in Israel and Gaza, and how, as Canadians, to stand with Israel in the right for them to defend themselves, and, of course, looking out for the many victims of this conflict, but to ensure that Israel has that support. Madam Speaker, here we are. And I would just note, when I asked a question a few minutes ago from the member from the Liberal Party who preceded me, said that I didn't understand what this bill is about. Well, Madam Speaker, let me make something, and they're clapping about that. But what they're clapping is seeing, Madam Speaker, that there are going to be Canadians that descend into poverty because this government forces them that direction. Absolutely. Madam Speaker, they are going to see that Canada is pushed to the back of the line when it comes to our ability to displace dictator crude and dictator gas. Madam Speaker, the unbelievable ignorance that exists from those Liberal members that would suggest that Canada and that those of us that actually understand the energy sector, not just traditional oil and gas, although that is a big part of what the opportunity that Canada offers, but truly understand the full extent of what Canada's energy future can be, it is those Liberals that are truly dragging behind and dragging us down. Madam Speaker, they should truly be ashamed of themselves, and I dare that member to come to my constituency and look my constituents in the eye and tell them why they don't deserve good-paying jobs. Tell them why they are, and accuse them. The accusations that those members make, accusing my constituents of somehow not caring for the environment, Madam Speaker, it is disgraceful, it is shameful, and it shows that they have lost the moral authority to govern on these issues, especially, Madam Speaker, when you look at the results. Let's look at the facts. When it comes to Canada's energy future, the reality is clear. Canada can be a world leader if not held back by these Liberals on whether it's the so-called just transition, of which there is nothing just about it, or when it comes to the No More Pipelines Bill C-69, which we just saw thumped down by the Supreme Court and called unconstitutional because of this government's meddling in provincial affairs. Madam Speaker, this government is holding back Canada's potential to be a world leader. You know, the Prime Minister, shortly after he was elected, said that Canada was back. Well, Madam Speaker, now after 8 years, the evidence is so very clear that he has been holding Canada back every step of the way, and the world is less safe because of it. The world has a less clean environment because of it, and that is the record of those Prime Ministers and their coalition partners in the NDP, and they should rightfully be ashamed of themselves. So, Madam Speaker, when it comes to what we are debating here today, I would encourage us to keep looking at the facts. We, as Canadians, have the ability to see, the conversation around net zero, let's go there. The conversation around net zero. Here's the reality, Madam Speaker. Canada could flip a switch. Canada could flip a switch today and we would reduce global emissions by 1.6%. 1.6%. Or we could be world leaders, and we could encourage investment in our energy sector, encourage investment in traditional oil and gas, encourage investment in clean tech, of which I support, Madam Speaker. We could do that. Or, and here's the results. Canada reduces emissions 1.6% by throwing our people into poverty, shutting down our factories, making it so that nobody can afford to live in this country, and that the only thing that has any ability to resemble something of prosperity is those who are connected to a Liberal government where they pick winners and losers. 1.6% of emissions globally would go down. We could flip the switch tomorrow. Or, and here's the contrast, Madam Speaker, between what Conservatives are offering and what Liberals are offering. we could empower Canadians, empower Canadian industry, and use the natural resources that are so abundant in this country. And we could reduce emissions globally by multiple factors of that 1.6% by getting our clean, green LNG to markets that are currently burning coal. And get this, Madam Speaker, if you can believe it, while that environment minister went to China through a communist-controlled so-called environmental forum, of which he is one of the vice chairs of. He went there and encouraged and promoted Chinese...
I'm sorry, I'm just going to stop the honourable member. There seems to be either some chit-chat or some heckling going on. I just want to make sure that members recognize that there is debate happening in the House, and if they want to have conversations, or if they should take it outside, if they want to think out loud, they should be thinking to themselves and waiting for questions and comments. The honourable member, order, and that includes parliamentary secretaries as well. So the honourable member for Battle River Crowfoot.
So, Madam Speaker, that environment minister went to China and promoted all the great work that the communist dictatorship in Beijing was doing on the environment, yet it is that country that is building coal-fired generation stations as we speak. Yet, Madam Speaker, we could be displacing that coal with clean, green Canadian LNG. We could be exporting nuclear technology around the world to make sure that we are displacing more emissions-intensive forms of energy. Madam Speaker, we could be displacing the Russian crude that is holding the European continent hostage. We could be ensuring that it is Canadian expertise and energy that is actually solving the world's problems, but under these Liberals and under their lack of an understanding of what is just in this world, that we are being held back. And I would like to just clarify one thing. You know, those Liberals seem to think that Conservatives somehow don't support clean energy. Well, it couldn't be further from the truth, Madam Speaker. And the reason why I can say that definitively is I am a massive proponent of energy investment of all kinds. So whether that be new clean tech or whether that be traditional forms, Madam Speaker, we should be a world leader in all forms. But the difference between, again, the Liberal philosophy, which is to hold people down, hold them and drown out anything that they don't agree with, that's what they believe, whereas Conservatives are we offer a clear alternative. And we say, let's empower people to do what's best for them. Let's make sure that it's not the government that picks winners and losers, Madam Speaker, but it is the ability for industry and innovators and ultimately Canadians to do what is best for themselves, for our country. And Madam Speaker, when we're doing what's best for Canada, we are doing what is best for the world, and the entire planet will benefit from Canadian leadership.
Absolutely.
So, Madam Speaker, when it comes to, again, let's look at some of the facts. We have this C-50 could lead to as many as 170,000 jobs lost, including many of which would be in my constituency. I dare those Liberals to look my constituents in the eye and tell them why their jobs don't matter. Madam Speaker, we could see up to close to 500,000 indirect jobs lost. So, Madam Speaker, that is the whole spectrum from those, and I'm not sure if the Liberals realize this, but a lot of the clean tech jobs depend on affiliated industries that also do work in our traditional energy sector. Madam Speaker, we need to also look at realistic outcomes to ensure that when we pass public policy in this place, that it will actually accomplish the objective. Nothing in this bill will benefit Canadians. Nothing in this bill will be just. Nothing in this bill will lower emissions. And nothing in this bill will lead to a prosperous future for Canadians. Yet, we see the government pushing forward, using manicured talking points that are somehow supposed to take the place of realistic and concrete solutions. Well, Madam Speaker, the facts speak for themselves. The only evidence that those Liberals can point to for even having an iota of success with emissions reductions is twofold. One, Alberta's leadership in reducing emissions, including in the energy sector. And two, they point to COVID and the lockdowns associated with it as a reason why emissions went down. Madam Speaker, it is truly shameful and a disgrace. And the fact that if it were any other part of the country, we would see those Liberal members facing they certainly wouldn't be pursuing this sort of agenda. And that leads me to the final point. It should be the job of any Prime Minister, first and foremost, to ensure that there is national unity in our country. Yet it is under this Liberal Prime Minister and those corrupt Liberals that are dividing our country in a way that I hope it can be repaired. I believe it can be, Madam Speaker. But there are so many that are losing faith in the very foundations of our institutions, the very foundations of our country, because of an ideological agenda that is not only ineffective, but is truly tearing the country apart. So, Madam Speaker, this bill needs to be defeated. This bill and the ideology and the members that support it need to be shown the door, because when it comes to the future of our country in every metric, this is the wrong direction, and it's time for a government that can bring home a future for Canada that works.
Questions and comments? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, the Government House Leader.
Yes, Madam Speaker, in one word, I guess I would use the word wow. You know, at the end of the day, it's becoming very clear from the Conservative Party. They don't give a darn about green jobs. They don't recognize that there's value to green jobs. And at the end of the day, they're prepared to write off Canada's middle class and those aspiring to be a part of it when it comes to good quality green jobs. This bill is all about making sure that there's a council that can provide that 5-year report in terms of how it is we can transition and generate additional jobs. Think of the battery jobs from Volkswagen, other types of jobs that are there. This is about tomorrow. Why do the Conservatives want to close their eyes or dunk their head in the sand like an ostrich or whatever bird it is that dunks its head in the sand? It doesn't make any sense. What have you got against good, clean, middle-class jobs?
I want to remind the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary he's to address questions and comments through the Chair, the Honourable Member for Battle River Crowfoot.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and I'm happy to address the member's question, because here is the reality. The only party in this country that supports clean, green, sustainable jobs is the Conservative Party of Canada. And we believe in an economy that allows for the prosperity of all industries. So whether that's mining in Northern Ontario, whether that's oil and gas in Alberta and across the prairies, whether that be tidal energy, which they have ensured is not affordable in the Maritimes. Madam Speaker, there's one party in this country that truly wants to see prosperity for all, lower emissions, and a future that works for Canadians, and it's the Conservative Party. So when that member stands up and spouts off the same tired talking points that have been tearing this country apart, well, Madam Speaker, he can be held accountable, as they not only fail on the environment, but they fail on the economy, and Canadians are getting sick and tired of it.
Séance des commentaires. L'honorable député de Jonquière.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I congratulate the member for the intensity of his speech, but I have some concerns for his health. If he's shouting like that, it's dangerous for his health. I would like him to take care of himself. I understand that he's passionate about oil, and that's fine. I'll grant him that. I just want to emphasize that if in the future we want to be part of the worldwide trend, which is reducing our carbon footprint, we have no choice but to make painful choices. The government offers generous subsidies to the oil and gas industry until 2035, $83 billion. Shouldn't that help him reconcile a little with the government? I'm trying to reconcile them. I want him to sleep well tonight and breathe and feel good.
You know, I appreciate the member's concern for my health, but Madam Speaker, I can assure you that I and so many Canadians will sleep better when that Prime Minister and his coalition partners are drummed out of office and we can see a Canada that actually prospers again, whether that's in Quebec and the many industries that benefit from investments in all types of energy. And why doesn't he go speak to the manufacturers that some of their largest customers in probably his riding come from my province? Madam Speaker, the disconnect that exists from the ideology that is purported and supported by every other political party in this House and the reality that exists on the ground here in Canada is so unbelievable. And Madam Speaker, the future is built on a clean economy, absolutely. And you know how we ensure that? We allow investment and prosperity in the ingenuity of Canadians to ensure that that happens, and Conservatives are the only party that's what we're offering.
We have time for a brief question. The Honourable Member Courtney Alberni.
Madam Speaker, my colleague's speaking like there's this big, bad, solar-powered windmill-shaped boogeyman that's going to land in Alberta and wipe out all these really important jobs. That's actually not the case, Madam Speaker. In fact, a study by the Calgary Economic Development estimates Alberta could see $61 billion pumped into their economy through clean tech investments, and studies show Alberta gaining almost 100,000 clean tech jobs. Why do the Conservatives continue to be unrelenting in their defense of oil and gas and their clear disdain for anything that would mitigate the effects of climate change and will steal these economic opportunities away from Alberta's workers and their families?
Answer from the member for Battle River Crowfoot.
The only thing that's being stolen from this country is the prosperity that should be given to Canadians. And it's that member's disconnect with reality that is on full display here. Madam Speaker, I can see windmills from my house. I drive by solar farms on a regular basis. So for that member to somehow think that you have to pick one or the other shows an absolute disconnect with the reality of how we solve what is a developing global energy crisis. Let's build in this country. Let's ensure there's clean tech. Let's ensure that when it comes to traditional energy, we continue to move towards that lower emissions path, and let's ensure that it's Canadians that lead the way as opposed to being held back like they are under that coalition.